Well, how are you? I'm James Jack. This is Skills to Pay the Bills. I'm with Ernestine J. Wilson Real Estate. I do real estate. I do a lot of other things too, but that's really not that important. Yes, it is. My life has really been a roller coaster. In the last session, I talked about a Ferris wheel. I don't do roller coasters, but I will do a Ferris wheel. I don't like the ups and downs. It's too much like life itself. I like the slow upward movement so I can just sort of like look out on the horizon and see all that beautiful stuff. Like Al Jarreau, when I get to the top, I feel like I can just reach out and touch the face of our Creator. Wow, that was really poetic, wasn't it? Let me tell you, I got a million of them. One of them is from Shakespeare, and I think it's relative at this point. One of my favorite characters from Shakespeare was Falstaff, Sir John Falstaff. He was a robust man, you know what I mean? He loved mutton. And he loved the ales. And when he would get full of himself, even on the battlefield, he would say some of the most profound things. Prince Henry, even though he tolerated Falstaff, most of the time just thought to himself, if I kill him off, then this play will end. So Prince Henry had nothing to do but to just accept what Falstaff said. And one of the things that Falstaff said was about honor. And if you watched the show earlier, I talked about how my father didn't really care about esoteric things. He didn't care about rhetoric. He didn't care about this and he didn't care about that. If I told him about honor, he would look at me and he'd say, "You're a fool. How much money do you have in your pocket now?" And obviously, he knew that I didn't have any money because I was into, intellectual things. He was into pocketbook issues. And as a result, most of what I try to not live to be is in me in terms of my father. Let's talk about honor, as Sir John Falstaff talked about it when he hid behind a rock. All the rest of the army fighters were out there engaging the enemy, and he was hiding behind a rock. And the reason being was he was a coward, and he admitted it. But he also owed allegiance to the crown and probably a little money too. And in a strange way, Shakespeare had with, talking about certain things that seem a little bit flighty, you may have thought he was talking about a debt that he owed to the prince, but what he owed to the prince was loyalty. And Falstaff basically said, I don't owe him anything. This is my life. So what if I'm a coward? I don't care anything about honor. What can honor do? I'm out here on the battlefield. Suppose I get my leg blown off. Can honor fix my leg? Does it have the skills of a surgeon? I would love to read it to you, but I don't have enough time. As I always say, just Google it. Sir John Falstaff, and put the word honor beside it. It'll give you something to laugh about. And also to ponder this life that we have. Not to beat the horse from here to heaven, I want to get back on the topic of money in terms of it being a pocketbook issue if you are a parent or if you are an adult and you decide that you want to go to school and you don't have enough money to pay to go to school. When I first went to college, my first semester tuition or registration fee was $92. I thought that was horrendous. Why did I think that? Because I had already gone to a public school, and I said to myself, why should we have to pay to go to school? It should be free, like it is in California. And if I had had a little common sense, I would have moved to California, lived there for a year, and gone to school scot-free. No. What I did not anticipate was the next semester, it was going to go up again. And it was going to go up again and again. And the longer I stayed in school, it was going to go up. So I thought to myself, you're a genius. Drop out and you don't have to worry about paying that. get a good job, and everything will be fine. So I dropped out of college. Actually, they kicked me out because I was like John Belushi. I loved to party and have a good time. And even though classwork was nothing to me, to me, classwork was like, when I didn't study. What did I study? I didn't even study for the SAT. Why? Because I am so smart. I had a little button. If you can go back to the 70s, remember that little button with the I'm a blink, 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 genius? I had one here on my cap and one right here, a big one. And that let everybody know that I was very smart. However, when reality sank in a few years later and I went back to school, oh my God, I think that was my first heartburn attack. The price for going to school at that time, it had jumped to something like $190 or $200 and some dollars per semester. I dropped out again. When I went back to school again, it was $200 and some dollars per hour. Is that what it is? Per hour. So if it was a 3-hour course, that course cost $600 and some dollars, $700. I didn't care. Why? Because I could get a student loan and that would take care of it. And I could combine that with a couple of other things and I am good to go. No problem. Well, it is a problem when you borrow money. As Shakespeare once said, neither a lender or a borrower be. If you like Hamlet, and if you can tolerate Polonius, you should read it and it'll sink in. So if you are a parent, you're going to do everything you can to keep from borrowing money for your kid. Why? Because you need that money later on. You're not going to get as much in Social Security as you think you are. Your pension is not going to be as much as you really need. So that money needs to be put aside either for that or to help them when they get out of school, because they're going to come back and live with you because they have nothing else to do until a good job comes along. So money is fungible, as they say. You know, no matter how you look at it, a dollar is a dollar, whether it's today's dollar or tomorrow's dollar. So you might as well try to save as much as you can. And here's how you're going to do it. As I stated earlier, if your kid is in the 9th and 10th grade, that gives you a head start. If your kid is in the 11th grade, it's going to be all right. But if your kid is working for $8 an hour and you're looking at $3,500 a semester, then you had better start doing your homework. Because when January comes around of the year that your kid is graduating, you're going to get inundated with all kinds of stuff. Some good, some bad. Some good, some bad. Some from people who mean well, and some from those who send it to you from a post office box and an 800 number. No, make that a 900 number. Oh, where are the Tums? Where are the Rolaids? Where's the whiskey? Anyway, what we're going to do is we're going to look at some avenues for getting the money, because that's what you want to do. The money's out there. Don't let anybody fool you into thinking your kid is a dummy. He or she cannot get any money. He can't dunk the ball. She can't play Mozart. They don't even know what pi r square means. We know that one, don't we? Pi r round. Pi r not square. But if your kid has a reasonably good GPA and a cum, and they really understand that maybe they should stay here in state and get state tuition rates, which are going to be a lot less than if they are a non-resident. I mean, going to Los Angeles because all your friends are going to Los Angeles can break mommy and daddy. It's a fact. It's a fact. Mommy and daddy are not rich, and they never will be unless they hit it. Instead, mommy and daddy and you, that's right, I'm including Junior and Sissy, should sit down and say, let's map out this plan. what are we going to do? If you're in the 9th grade, you probably might want to consider changing your major from theater to math. Why? Because math and the other sciences will give you a leg up for the types of jobs that you will get, well-paying jobs, and I'll tell you more about that later on, when you graduate from college, and especially when you get a master's. And even when you graduate from college, and if you've got a really good GPA, a good company will say, we'll send you back to school and pay for it to get the master's, the MBAs, or whatever the case may be, the PhD, because we want to keep you here. Your brain is very important to us. You have the skills that are going to help us to compete with those people over there. I was going to say who don't speak English, but everybody speaks English. It's us who don't speak the other languages, and as a result, we need to prepare ourselves for the future. So, get them to change the major to a reasonable major that's going to give them an opportunity to help you to acquire that money. Sit down with them and tell them exactly what you're going to do with the application. Go to those resources on the web, as I mentioned before. One of them is the NASFAA. These people are volunteers. Sometimes they want a little fee, but that's all right. You know, nothing wrong with that. Put a little in the basket so that they can be here 5 years from now. Go to those people at ACT and SAT. They'll be glad to help you. They would love to see your kids score almost perfect, if not perfect, on their exams. Why? Because that's a feather in their cap, and also that's money in the bank when it comes to tuitions, registration fees, books, dormitory fees. In other words, the goal is to get the full ride. Understood? Sure it is. Now we have something to look forward to, and I can get excited about seeing you again when we come back with another one of these Holmes economics topics, one of these pocketbook issues that we all deal with. I'm James Jack. I'm with Ernestine J. Wilson Real Estate, and this is Skills to Pay the Bills. And today we've been talking about Holmes economics. Not just the buying and selling of homes this time, but pocketbook issues, and one of those being finding money for college. After this, we'll be right back with more of the findings.
When you need a student loan, when you're looking for Social Security information, when you need a passport for that safari in Botswana, they're ready. For all your government information, call the folks in red, white, and blue. 1-800-FED-INFO.
Hi, I'm James Jack. I'm with Ernestine J. Wilson Real Estate. This is Skills to Pay the Bills. And a little while ago, in case you just joined us, we were talking about pocketbook issues. This time, not the selling and buying of homes or the leasing or the repair of homes, but about if you own a home or you rent, if you're like everybody else, you need money. Especially if you've got kids who are getting ready to go to school, or if you're going back to school. When I mean school, what I mean by school is college, or to trade school, because trade school is that avenue, that resource for getting a very good job. And earlier I mentioned that it's a good idea to prepare ahead of time. That's why they call it college prep. And if you remember when you were in junior high and high school, they sat you down and they said, now, if you're going to be on track for college, you need to take some college prep courses. Not necessarily the advanced placement courses, but those courses that the people at SAT and ACT are going to want to see on your transcript and also on your applications. What should you be taking? They're not mandatory in every school district. It was mandatory for me, and it's a good thing it was, because that alone helped me to get into school. I didn't study for the SAT. I didn't think it was necessary. I barely got by. However, those 4 years of English made a difference. Yes, I had 3 years of math. More than that, I had algebra twice, I had geometry, I had trig, I had advanced placement math. So I had a pretty good idea what was going on. Even though on the SAT, I looked at some problems and I said to myself, heck with this. On the English, I zipped through that because I was master of the language. Yes, I am a wordsmith, and because of that, when the first word popped up, I knew exactly what it meant, and I went down the list, and I said to myself, I got this. Natural sciences. You're going to need to take the biologies and the chemistries and the physics. Why? Because even though they may not matter if you become a theater major or a sociology major, if you're thinking about earning, say, $65,000 a year when you get out of school, that might help. What about $141,000 a year when you get out of school? College, I'm talking about. Or what about $343,000 on average? You say it doesn't exist? We'll get to that in just a moment. Now, you're going to need to take some liberal arts classes so you'll be well-rounded, you know. Nobody likes a party pooper. Some schools require it, some don't, but it's just a good thing to have it on the SAT and the SATs. And it's a good thing as a parent for you to make sure that your kid stays on track for this. Start them off very early, liking to learn. And eventually, they will love to learn. And it'll be just like pizza. And sometimes they'll experiment with other things like pineapple on their pizza or Shakespeare in their curriculum. And it makes them well-rounded. Now, what's your homework, Mom and Dad? Budgeting. You have got to get on a budget. No Disney World or Disneyland this year. No Beats headsets for everybody in the family. No Mercedes-Benz for you, Dad. No new weaves and all that other stuff for you, Mom. You got to stay on board. Otherwise, Junior and Sissy are going to suffer for it. Budgeting isn't always about money. It's about time. The experts, they say it right here. I didn't say it. I learned it, but they say it. Practicing. I went to law school. People told me I would never make it. But other people who knew what they were talking about, advisors said, get the books, get the materials, and do it every day. Carve out time every day to study this stuff, and it'll become a part of your lifestyle. And all you need to do is score just enough, and you'll get in. I got in, and I got out too. I don't practice law, but I love the law. Your kid will love accounting. Your kid will love marketing. You will love economics if you set yourself on course for those things. Why? Well, as I mentioned before, some companies, especially the top industries today, are looking for people with those degrees. In accounting, we're looking at about $65,000 entry level. In software publishing, that's right, writing those apps and those programs, about $150,000 on average coming in. Investment banking and securities, Wall Street stuff, NASDAQ stuff, $343,000 and some change, plus bonuses. So sometimes it's not such a bad idea to develop an appetite for beats. Not beats like, but beats like those little ugly red things that I have never liked. Even though I've never tasted one, I just don't like the way they look. But I did develop a taste for constitutional law, and I love it. What else are you going to budget for? We said time and we said money. Okay, let's get back to the money. Why would you budget for money? Well, it is prudent for you to look for bargains. There are people who say that they actually did well on the SAT, and there are sources that say that you can buy $20 worth of material at a minimum and master that and do well on the SAT or the ACT. Of course, that doesn't mean you're going to have a private tutor. It doesn't mean that you're going to be going to one of those $500, $600 sessions that they have over the weekend or anything like that. But you're going to have a pretty good idea as to what it takes to pass the SAT. Even before you get to the SAT, courses that you take in school. you need to set a target for being on the dean's list. Well, it's not the dean's list, what is it? The honor roll, or whatever it was when I was in school. They told me I was on the honor roll, but I was too lazy to even look for my name. I just walked past the board and they say, yeah. And I said, oh, great. What about the web? Everything is on the web. You can download some of this stuff into your iPhone, into your tablet, or into your PC and study. Parents, you can download this stuff and read it and get a very good understanding, so that when you start receiving those postcards from those people who are telling you that they can guarantee that you will get a student loan, or your kid will get a student loan, or whatever the case, not student loan, grants and aid and things like that, you'll be able to see through it as a sham. I know. It just seems like no matter what you do in every aspect of life, there's somebody there who just wants to not only bend the rules, but twist it and tie it into a knot and throw it to the curb just like they would you, and walk away with your money. It's not fair. Well, neither is love and war. No, all is fair in love and war? I don't understand that one. But I do understand one thing, that if you prepare ahead of time, as with anything, just like if you were going to do repairs on your house, and you scout around for a contractor, and you talk to different people who have had good experiences as well as those who've had bad experiences, and you look for supplies and you do your homework, you'll come out ahead, as opposed to someone who's only thinking about, I want my bath to look like that bath on television with the lady soaking in the bubbles. Huh? You're going to pay for a really good bath. Or otherwise, 3 years from now, when it comes apart, you're going to say to yourself, I'm going to pay more to have this thing fixed than if I had paid someone to do it right. So you're going to pay more for your kid's college education 5 years from his graduation date from high school than you would if you prepared them starting in the 9th grade. Turn the TV off, unplug the video games, and tell them you can watch that at this time, but right now we're going to spend an hour talking about this so you will understand what's going on. I always like to talk about my father. He was a very, very smart man, but he was anti-intellectualistic, meaning that when I explained certain things to him in a way that a smart-aleck kid does to his or her father or mother or aunt or uncle who didn't go to college, they look at you as if to say, you're really not as smart as you think you are. I mean, if my father were alive and he saw that picture of me as a disc jockey, he would probably say, he's not a scientist. He's not a doctor. He's not a minister. He's not an author or any of those things. He's just a DJ spinning records. But if my father and I were to sit down and he asked me about contracts and things like that, and I explained to him, these are the things that are involved here, then he would say, okay, why? Because until it affects him as it does anyone else, including you, education really doesn't mean anything at all. Most of us, we really snub it, except those of us who've been through it. And if you've been through it, if you spent 3-4 years taking exams, entrance exams, midterms, finals, paying for books that you probably won't open for forever, or you didn't open twice when you were in school because it was mandatory for you to buy the book, but the teacher didn't even teach anything that was in the book, or the price of caps and gowns, or the price for this, or the price for that, or whatever, lab fees and things like that. Then beyond what you learned about in your literature class or in your physics class, you have an appreciation for something that most people deep down inside really wish they did have. And given an opportunity, they would really go for it. Not all, but a lot of people really appreciate and understand the importance of an education. So as a parent, you have a responsibility to take it upon yourself to take the lead. And even if you don't know anything at all about how to get this money for school, you have an obligation to yourself and to your kid to do what you have to do to make sure that life is a lot easier for them 4, 5, 6 years from now. Well, next time I see you, we'll talk about another pocketbook issue. Or no, maybe we'll go deeper into this and I'll give you more information about finding money for school. I'm James Jack. I'm a good finder. I'm with Ernestine J. Wilson Real Estate, and this is Skills to Pay the Bills. And until I find something else, I'll see you later. You have a